Got it. Let's go ahead and hit record and we're gonna go ahead and get started. Make sure we are live on YouTube and I'm gonna get my phone going as well. Or I can see if we have any comments. Uh, Shucks. Where is that? Uh, Here we go. Uh, all right, give me a minute. It says the video. Oh, let's go ahead and hit record and we on there. Okay, let's hit record. Let's go ahead and get started. All right, here we go. You all set?
Ready to go.
All right, let's put us in the big view, full screen. There we go. All right, we'll go for 30 minutes and here we go. Let's hit record.
There we go.
There we go. Welcome to the Center of HBCU Entrepreneurship Podcast. My name is Omar Muhammad, helping you improve and progress in business and in life. The Center of HBCU Entrepreneurship Podcast is where entrepreneurship comes to life. So this is an opportunity for us to really showcase the talents that we have at our HBCUs and our HBCU centers. And we'll have a number of guests throughout the podcast. So I'm excited to serve as I'm gonna say co-host, because that's what we basically do. We're co-hosting this. And as you can see, I have the co-host over there, Dr. Bruce Berger, and we're gonna hit all the way down to Atlanta this time, Clark Atlanta University. Dr. Berger, how are you?
Great. Fantastic. Omar, how are you?
And always improving and progressing. Now that I have you on board.
All right, let's
All right.
rock and roll. Let's give them something that they can remember.
Absolutely. So on the Center of HBCU Entrepreneurship Podcast, we focus on two areas. We focus on what's happening on the yard, at your university, and then we give out some continuing education. So let's first focus on what's happening down in Atlanta. So tell us
Wow.
about the Entrepreneurship Center, and you have the freedom to share. If you want to use the controls to share your website as well. So first of all, tell us about who you are, and then
Okay.
tell us about your entrepreneurship center.
Well, you and I go back a ways. So I am the director for the Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurial Development, CIED, as we call it here. I'm also a professor of entrepreneurship and law. I teach my trade is as a lawyer, and I teach law courses, business law courses. I've taught other courses as well. But I came here in 2015 from another HBCU, Texas Southern. We're in Houston, where I was the associate dean of the business school, and I taught entrepreneurship there and strategy. And so I was brought here by the president, who was actually my dean at Texas Southern, and he was a new president here, to develop this center. And now we're 8 years old. And, it's interesting because, as you know, we're right next door to Morehouse and right next door to Spelman. And each one of us has a center and a center director. And, we have our own programs, but we all share. So we have an event this week that we're going to be over at Morehouse. They're going to be over at our events. We got several events for this National Entrepreneurship Week. So we're excited about it. But there's always in the AUC, the Atlanta University Center, which is the three schools I mentioned, Clark, Atlanta, Morehouse, and Spelman, and the medical school, Morehouse Medical School. So there's 4 schools, and there's also an denominational church focused PhD or divinity degree program as part of the AUC. There's always something going on here, Omar. Always.
Yeah, I was about to say there's always something going on there. And it's unique too, because you all are right there. I've been down to Clark Morehouse as well, and you all are right there. And
Yeah.
it's I mean, I'm imagining that you all are sharing, just the resources of entrepreneurs that are coming out. You're sharing those resources with them,
Yes.
not
Yes.
just at
And
university.
and it
So
helps because, if Tiffany Bussey, Dr. Bussey over at Morehouse has an event or has some funders for, let's say Black women in entrepreneurship, then we're always invited over there. Or if the guys over at Spelman, actually the men run the Center for the Women at Spelman. So I say the
yes,
guys, but there are male directors over there for the
yeah.
ladies at Spelman. So we share and we go to different events, and it's quite interesting, to have three schools, right there, touching each other.
Absolutely. So let's talk about you. You're kind of unique too. Not only are you the director of the center, you're also a professor. So let's talk about, talk about how you're handling both of those. From you got your professor hat on, and you also
Yeah.
have your director hat.
Well, it's not easy. I mean, I'm lucky because 2 years ago, this is my second year, I've got an associate director, Ron Satut, and without him, I would have been, probably by this time dead, because I ran it myself with a part-timer, and then I had a full-time and admin, and then that got reduced to part-time admin. And then COVID, of course, I had nobody. It was just me. We were all distance. But yeah, I luckily I don't have a full load where I don't have to teach 4 classes. I can teach 3. And in one semester I can teach 2 because I run this center. And I'm also on committees, and I have grants and things like that. So it takes a lot of time. But when I was practicing law, 70, 80 hour weeks were common. So a
Yeah,
50 or 60 hour week in academia, I can deal with it. Not too bad.
absolutely. So absolutely. So how do you get the students involved in what you're doing? First of all, how big is the population there at Clark and
We,
Lance?
we've got about 4,000 students. Remember, Morehouse is all undergrad men. Spelman is all undergrad women. We are a full-blown, Carnegie Research Institution, and we have all the way to PhD and postdoc. So we have about 3,200 undergrads and about 1,200 grad students across the campus. And we get them involved, with basically the mission of this place is to evangelize entrepreneurship and entrepreneurial thinking and design thinking across the campus.
Mm,
It's not
mm.
just for business school students, which is traditionally, where you find this. Us, we're always in the business school. Even though my courses are, listed in the business school, we're actually in the science building, our location in the science
Okay.
building, the research center, and where all our labs are, all our grad students. Very few undergrads come over here to school, but we have fellows, and which are paid a stipend, and then we have some clubs, and those clubs are very active, so they help get the word out and put flyers out and develop opportunities, our social media, our photography, our videography. It's all, student run. So I've been blessed with great students who love entrepreneurship, like your students at Morgan, and they love you and they love entrepreneurship. Omar, by the way, you're a legend in the HBCU world. And so I'm
You know,
honored to be I'm honored to be here on your program. I got to tell you that.
honored to have you here. So you didn't mention the name of your center. So mention the name of your center and give out the website too.
Well,
So
it's
as
a
we're
Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurial Development. So it's the CIED,
mm,
www.cied.edu. and so we have, a center here, and then we have other smaller labs. This room where I'm in is the center, but it's also our classroom. All of our entrepreneurship courses are taught here. It's also a makerspace. We have about 11 3D printers in here, and then we have another lab upstairs in this building where we have laser cutters and other makerspace stuff. So we try to do everything in this room. And then we have other event rooms around the campus like you do. If we need a bigger venue we just had an event where we had, like 250 students. We couldn't do it in this room, so we move around.
And yeah, so it's interesting. A number of HBCUs are following in that footprint of having a makerspace. So how big is your 3D printer? Can you
Well,
print me a house?
no. No. We can't print you a house, but we can print you some pretty good sized stuff, and I
Yeah,
have a display case over here. It's locked up right now, but
yeah.
with all kinds of things that students have printed. And we've printed shoes, we've printed all kinds of articles of clothing, accessories, belts, just anything that a student wants to print. We're going to have a Valentine's Day printing coming up here real quickly, where they can come in and print up rings, and we print up name tags and all that stuff.
Oh, wow.
So we have a
Wow.
lot of students that like 3D printing. They're getting into it. We're not an engineering school. We're not like Morgan, where you have a full-blown engineering program. We have a pre-engineering program, a 3-2 program, where those students can go and do the first 3 years here and then go over to other schools and do their second 2 years and get in 5 years 2 degrees. They'd have an
Oh,
undergrad degree from here, and they could have a engineering degree from Georgia Tech, for
oh,
example.
wow.
But we
Okay.
we
All
don't have that many engineering students per se, so we try to get students involved with prototyping and making things
right.
if they have an interest. And a lot of students actually do. Actually, when you put out the call, they'll come
Yeah.
for our workshops. We have a lot of workshops in here.
Mhm. Absolutely. And that's good. The prototype, and we get that question all the time. Hey, can you make this prototype for me?
Yeah.
All right. Let's see what we can do about that. All
Mhm.
right. So I know we talked about the students, so how do you get the community around Clark Atlanta, Morehouse, and Spelman involved in the work that you all are doing?
I think pretty much it's events. The
Yep.
students,
Okay.
the students love events and food at the events, obviously. We have a
Yes,
jerk
sir.
chicken event tomorrow. We're going to have a pop-up out on our promenade outside. And today it's raining badly, but tomorrow it's going to be nice, probably upper 50s. And we're going to have a
Mhm.
pop-up pitch competition. We're going to give away cash, $500 for the
Yeah.
winner, $300. That kind of thing. The students walk up and down the promenade, heading to their dorms, heading to the cafeteria. And, we could have 50 to 100 or 200 pop-up
Wow.
pitches tomorrow with judges, and we got some people from PNC coming to judge, and some of our
Yeah.
professors are going to be there. So all these events, Morehouse, Spelman just had a mixer Friday night for 3 hours. I think 4 to 7, they had a mixer, and a lot of our students went to that. And Morehouse is going to have an event with a gentleman from Blackstone on Thursday, and we're going to be there. Our students, we all shoot out stuff to the students, and you got to remember that there's about 2,500 students at Morehouse and about 2,500 at Spelman. You add that to our 4 grand, we got about 9,000 students in
Yeah.
these 3 schools here.
Mm.
There's always something going on, man.
I see. I see. So do you get the community other than the students involved
Well,
in what you
no,
guys are? Okay.
that's a great question. We have grants where we take our students, our entrepreneurship students, and embed them in the community. We will work with entrepreneurs in the community. We will have classes here. We've had a grant here where we developed from zero, 60 small businesses
Oh,
and
wow.
got them funded. A lot of them, some of them, this was pre-COVID, are still going, and some of them are seven-figure gross income and doing very, very well. We are going to have a urban agricultural university here in
Oh,
this center.
wow.
Yep, and
Okay.
because Atlanta has, like Baltimore, Atlanta has a lot of urban farmers. We've got about 250 urban farms spread out in greater Atlanta. And so they really are lacking in business skills. And
Mhm.
so whether it's, marketing through social media, supply chain, trying to figure out how do I do QuickBooks? How do I
Yeah.
figure out gross profit, net profit? And we'll do that here, and we'll have our students involved. We'll have our professors involved. So we do like to interface with the community. We're in Southwest Atlanta, which is unfortunately the poorest of the neighborhoods in Atlanta. But we're here to serve them, and it's a food desert. We've got a farm right down the street from us where we've actually, one of my grants built a aquaponics center there, and they use that to grow fish and vegetables, and that's pretty cool. So there's always something to do with the community, and we we're heavy into whatever we can do there.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate that. When I come back down there, and I definitely want to see that farm down there.
Oh, it's
You
it's
know,
great. Yeah.
it's always good to, people always talk about I need money, I need money. But what I'm hearing from you is, yeah, we're providing some seed funding, but we also are providing a way for you to scale and operate your business. And that is, having the students utilize their theory and their experience to really work with entrepreneurs to really help them, not only start their business, but operate and scale their business. I think that's the next wave in scaling your business.
It is.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
kudos to you and your team down there.
Yeah. No,
All right.
we've been fortunate. Yeah.
Yeah, yep. So let's do this. Give out your website once again, and then we're gonna move from on the yard to some continuing education. And I'll
Okay.
leave it up to you what you want to talk about. But you're an attorney, so I
Well,
have one thing.
we can talk law, but I don't have a bar in Maryland.
Okay, I know, but you know about some stuff. You know about a
I do.
lot of stuff. You know about a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
So
I
give
know.
out your
So
again and
www.cied.edu. So
all right.
that's the that'll get you to our site.
Okay, good. Anything else you want to say as relates to Clark Atlanta and the center before we move on?
I think we covered it all. I mean, yeah, let's move on. We got what, about 10 minutes or so? So yeah, sure.
You got about that. So, let me throw this out and then we can talk about, whatever you want to talk about as it relates to, continuing education. So this portion is really about how do we help individual entrepreneurs continue to seek information to help them with operations and scaling their business. I do want to kind of take a step back. I mean, I think it's funny. I get this often, all the time, and you're probably getting this too. You know, Mr. Muhammad, I need to get my LLC. Help me with my LLC. I'm like, what are you
Yeah.
saying? So, I guess during the pandemic, getting your LLC equals starting a business. When you hear people say, I need to get my LLC, what feedback do you get? And we're not giving legal advice, y'all. We're just
No.
talking LLC.
Well, don't get me wrong, as a lawyer, and I still practice my I don't practice full time, but my bar is in Florida. That's where I practice, and so I'm still involved with a law firm down there, and in the summers I do that. But an LLC is important from the standpoint of protecting your personal assets, because an
Yeah,
LLC is separate from you. Even if you're a single member LLC, you're an employee technically of the LLC.
absolutely.
So you're protected unless you do something intentional, something really, really bad. Your personal assets are protected, and that's the key. That's why you need an LLC. Before LLCs, you had to do a corporation, you had to do some kinds of limited partnerships. They were, much more difficult to deal with. These LLCs are, they're very easy. But I tell budding entrepreneurs and students, don't get an LLC to just have an LLC, because here's what
Yeah.
most people don't know who aren't lawyers. An LLC can be useless, even though it's paid for, and you keep up your yearly bill, and you pay the state of Georgia or Maryland. The problem is you have to have an operating agreement, and
Yes,
most
sir.
people don't understand this. And
That's
so
right.
if they get in trouble, breach a contract, a problem with a supplier, or they sold defective equipment or clothing or something, and they're having trouble now with the customer, and they get sued and they get hauled into court, even if it's small claims court. The first thing the judge says, well, let me see your operating agreement. And
Mm.
if you don't have an operating agreement, and most people don't because they don't really understand what it is, then
Right.
the judge is going to say, okay, well, we're going to go to the Maryland statute. And that
Mm.
means that you're now in a default position legally, and whatever the statute says is what you are going to be guided by, and the judge is going to be guided by it, instead of your own rules that you can make up as you wish. And I'll give an example in a second, with an operating agreement. So let's just say you had two people in a LLC, and you have a disagreement over something, and you want to split up, but you don't want to dissolve the LLC. And you can write into your operating agreement how that will happen and what
Mm.
it'll look like. And it may differ from the statute, the Maryland LLC law. Every state has an LLC law statute. So people don't understand that. So I say, don't run out and get an LLC until you're really making some money and you have an EIN number from
Yeah.
the IRS, and you can open up a bank account, and you're not doing a side hustle and sticking the money in your pocket where the IRS one day could come after you,
That's right.
which they will and do sometimes, not all the time. So I'm not big on LLCs until you're really making some good money, honestly. And then it's
Yeah.
worth it to sit down with an attorney, pay him $1,500, $1,000, whatever it is, and get an operating agreement, especially if it's more than a single member. But even with a single member,
Right.
what if you're a single member LLC and you die or you're incapacitated? What happens? Well, the
Yes,
statute says this is what happens. But if you had an operating agreement, you could have had it set up so that your mom or your spouse or somebody would have come in and liquidated everything and made sure that everybody was paid and your estate would have money. The
yeah.
statute may not allow that. It may be different. So don't jump to an LLC yet. That's what I tell people.
Okay, yeah, there's some other legal structures that you can have as well, so, I just wanted to, I mean, that I'm glad you went into the operating agreement, because individuals, like you said, they think that you need articles of a corporation. I'm like,
No,
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 that's
no,
corporation.
no, you
Corporation,
don't.
you need to understand the legal parts. And that's why I suggest to entrepreneurs, sit down with an accountant and an attorney up front, because you really don't want to fall back on the back end, because you're going to be paying on much more money. So as you indicated, pay that for that money up front
And
and really
especially,
get.
I'll just add this, especially I want to emphasize anybody
Mhm.
listening, if you have another member, if there are two of you or more, you
Yeah,
really, really need to all sit down with a lawyer and
yeah,
figure out, hey, what do we do if something happens, you know?
yeah,
What if one of us has to file bankruptcy? That's a big
yeah.
issue because creditors and getting credit, with banks, et cetera, et cetera. So there's all kinds of things that with two or more people, you're going to have divorces, you're going to have splits. You got to figure out on the front end how this is going to look.
Absolutely. Oh man, that's a workshop right there, y'all. See?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
See, entrepreneurship. Some great information. All right, we got about 6.5 minutes left.
Okay,
Uh,
good.
what what else you want to talk about with continuing education? Anything that pops in mind?
Yeah, I think that it's important that that beginning entrepreneurs, especially, startups, they understand what an NDA is and how to use an NDA, a
Mm,
non-disclosure agreement. I think that that's a very, very important thing. They also need to understand intellectual property. Do I need to have my idea protected? Should I
yeah,
copyright it? Should
yeah,
I have a patent if I've got something here that could be patentable? You know,
absolutely.
there's so many different things in the area of IP. Just the name itself, how do I protect the name of the business? Uh, that people need to really think about before they just go out and start doing stuff. And also, I think the non-disclosure agreement. If you talk to people without an NDA and an NDA that really is tight, because you can go on the internet and get some of them, and they're not as tight as they should be. You're really at risk. So,
Absolutely.
that's an area, just because I'm a lawyer, but that's an area that I'm very, very aware of a lot of problems and a lot of issues. Even students with
Yeah.
competitions,
Yep.
they'll say, "Hey, we don't want to tell our idea." Okay, then let's make the class sign an NDA. That's fine. Okay, well,
Right.
that's not a problem. Let's protect yourself. Well, what is that? How does that work? So, that's a couple of my pet peeves when I start talking to students about when you're going to first start. But I think the biggest thing is capitalization, honestly. Too many people start a business and it's basically a side hustle
Yep.
that grows, or an idea that grows into a side business or side hustle that becomes a business. And then I see it time and time and time again. Even startups, Omar, that are really, really strong startups, and we see a lot of them here, and they all of a sudden get up to about $500,000, and
Mm,
they can't go anywhere because they don't have
mm,
any capital. They can't hire new people. They can't buy more product. They can't buy more equipment, and they've hit a wall. And a lot of them just collapse, honestly, even though they're grossing 250, 500,000, because they hit this wall. And that goes back to, in the beginning, you don't have a crystal ball, but do you have funders lined
right.
up and interested, in case,
Yeah,
the day comes,
absolutely.
and that's what people don't think about. And
Yeah.
it's exciting to be an entrepreneur because you get into it and you start doing it, and it's intoxicating to make money
Yeah.
and put some money in your pocket, and oh, I got a new ride, I got this, I got that. But at some point you got to get to the next level. People don't
Right.
think about that in the beginning.
Absolutely. And if I can add to that, sometimes they don't even think about their customers funding their business. And
No.
maybe wrong type of customer that you're going after. So that sales funnel, that sales process is truly important. And just imagine you are a solo entrepreneur, you're doing all of this. So I see that a lot too. These solo entrepreneurs, even a two-person operation. Somebody has to be out there working on money making activities, and somebody
Right.
need to be in-house providing a service or making a product as well.
Oh,
So I
yeah,
wanted to
all the
add.
time. Yeah, all
Yeah,
the
so I
time.
do want to go back though to the NDA agreement.
Yeah.
What do you say to individuals that are looking to say, "Hey, Dr. Berg, I don't want to really tell nobody about this," and you say you need to do an NDA, and they get
No, I
that NDA.
Yeah. No,
So
I
what
tell them.
happened?
I tell
So
them
do you,
that they have got to sign and have people sign a non-disclosure agreement, and I sit down with them and say, you have to understand what this document says. You can't just have, hey, sign this. You have to understand, because people are going to sign it. Here's the sad thing, and this is where lawyers have to come in and clean up the mess on the floor. People are going to sign it, and they're going to steal your idea anyway. And
that's where I was going. How do
yeah,
you
and
enforce it?
you're going to hear about it. You're going to hear about it.
Yes.
So the question
Yeah.
is that NDA, does it have any teeth in it? Okay. Can you stop them? And so do you have injunctive relief? Can you get an injunction to stop them? How much does that cost, by the way? So
Absolutely.
you got to be aware of injunctive relief, which you go to a judge and the judge says, okay, you can't do what you're doing. Stop right now and pay this person for violating the agreement. Okay. And that can be over time. Well, I don't have any money now. Okay. Then I'm going to get a judgment. You write it right in there that that agreement can be used as a judgment. A
Yeah.
judgment means that follows them in many states for 20 years or more.
Yeah.
You can actually
So,
renew judgments. So, you can follow a person and one day they got money and say, hey, you owe me $250,000 for disclosing all that stuff you did. So
that's
people
right.
don't understand the students really, when I tell them that, they're like, really? I could get that money? Yeah, yeah, you can get it. May not be
Yeah.
right away, but you're going to get it one day. But you
Absolutely.
scare the hell out of people. Excuse me.
That's right.
You scare them
Yeah.
because
Right.
you got teeth in that thing. And you say
Absolutely.
to them, hey, you can take this to a lawyer, just like a prenuptial, you know, the rich sugar daddy and his beautiful bride. And the rich sugar daddy whose lawyer drew up the prenuptial has to say to the bride, hey, you got to go to a lawyer.
That's right.
I'll pay for it. You got to go to a lawyer, your own lawyer independently. And I tell students, it's right in the NDA. It's got to say that.
That's
Don't
right.
pay for I'm not paying for it, but you got to get a lawyer to look at this to protect you
Abs- Absolutely.
because it's
So
going to
that's
come
one.
back to bite you.
Absolutely. That's one of the resources that entrepreneurs need, that attorney, that lawyer, and all that. And what's the difference? Is there a difference between an attorney and a lawyer? It's kind of off the subject.
There's really not a difference, though. I've heard, this is just folklore, that lawyers do not pass the bar or have not passed the bar, and attorneys have passed the bar and can hang out a shingle. I've heard that.
Interesting.
But if you graduate from law school, you're a lawyer,
Lawyer.
and you're not an attorney until you pass the bar. That's a folklore. There's really no different. There's really no really, you can't call yourself an attorney at law unless you pass the bar and you can,
Absolutely.
charge somebody for your legal advice. But
Absolutely.
that's
So, all right, that was
an attorney at law.
there you go. That was a bonus clip, y'all. All right. Dr. Berger, anything else? Any final thoughts before we roll out of here?
Um, I don't have anything off the top of my head. Let me ask you a question,
Yes, sir.
Omar. What do you think is the number one issue for new new startups? What is the number one issue that you see? I mean, you kind of mentioned a couple things. What do you see mostly is the big problem area, the challenge?
Not defining what the problem is, truly defining the problem and who's going to buy that problem. People just say, hey, I got this idea and I want to go out there and do this without really going out and, we call it customer discovery or just doing surveys, back in
Yeah,
the day,
yeah,
just having a conversation with individuals because, anybody can start a business. Those businesses that truly go out there and do some form of customer discovery
yeah,
tend to last longer than those individuals say, you know what, I'm going to just start this business right now without really exploring it. I used to be a lender and I hated the business plan after I became left being a lender, but I'm like, you know what? The business plan really helps you just lay down your ideas. It don't have to be a 30 page like I used to receive. I'm
Sure,
like, yeah, I'm
sure.
a 30-page business plan.
Yeah,
So I would say customer discovery, really understanding what the problem is so that you can identify who are those individuals that are going to buy your product. And we just talked about that. How do you not only start the business, but how do you put systems? That's another thing. Not having systems in place. I'm not kind of jumped around, but not having systems in place so that when you are out there doing your money making activities, who's doing the social media? Who's doing the marketing?
yeah,
Who's doing the HR? I mean, no, these are smaller businesses, but you need to be prepared when you do get more than just yourself as an employee.
absolutely.
So those are challenges that I see.
Very good. Yeah, I'm with you 100%. The value proposition, the customer
Yes,
discovery, yeah, you got to know that cold. Your
absolutely.
target market. A lot of folks don't know who their target market is.
Absolutely. They think it's everybody.
Yeah,
Not
not always.
everybody.
Not
It-
always.
That's right. It's
Well,
not
thank you for
everybody.
having me. I appreciate it very much.
Thank you. So this is the second one. This is the first one in which I had somebody else other than me talking. So thank you, Dr. Berger, for coming on board. And once again, give out your not email address, but give out your website so that people can explore the great works that you're
Sure.
doing down.
Or they
Okay.
can email me if they want to email me B Burger. That's BBERGER, B Burger at cau.edu or www.cied.edu. And yeah, I'm happy to help anybody, but I don't know Maryland law. I can't help you there.
Absolutely. Well, you gave some good information, so they'll go out and reach out to an attorney wherever you are. So thank you for tuning in and continue bringing HBCU entrepreneurship to life. Until we see each other again, continue to improve and progress. Peace.
See you.
All right, that was good.
That was good. Yeah, I liked it. It was
So
smooth. It went fast.
let me get off of her. Let me get off.